Everyone could take their
That's a
seats,
TV.
please.
What is this too?
Maybe one, right?
I call to order tonight's regular meeting of the Board of Education of CUSD 201, August 11th, 2015. Roll call, please.
Ms. Ambrose.
Here.
Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
Mrs. Charlton.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. Notbush.
Here.
Mr. Price. Ms. Wilson. Thank you.
And before we do one more thing, I want to formally introduce Rima Black as the Superintendent Secretary and the Administrative Secretary. So welcome to the district
Thank you.
and your first meeting. So,
Thank you.
Second meeting.
well, first one. Stop it. We could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda, are there any public comments? Okay, then we'll move right to the consent agenda. Just want to make sure that everybody saw the addition that was put out for this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number one, personnel recommendations. Deirdre Dunbar, part-time AP psychology at the high school. Anna Jakubowski, I know I was going to do that, part-time creative writing at the high school. Esmeralda Valadares, part-time U.S. history teacher and part-time teacher's aide at the high school. Peter Landreth, current teacher, but now adding position of social studies coordinator at the high school. And then the following paraprofessionals: Joseph Edelman, Jamie Andelanopoulos, Emily Diella, Mary Medlicott, Dan Shields, Catherine Sybil. Number two, approval of July 2015 expenditure report. 3, ratification of July 2015 regular payroll. 4, renewal of SELF, workman's compensation insurance. 5, approval of athletic training contract. 6, resolution to abate working cash funds. And 7, approval of textbook adoption request.
So moved.
Second.
And then roll call, please. Ms. Black?
Ambrose.
Yes.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Notbush.
Yes.
Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, then the first item on the agenda to discuss tonight is capital project priorities.
Okay, so I updated the 5-year plan with some of the things that we talked about at the last board meeting. So the priority column, just for your information, is left blank. So after we get through these projects and we see if we get our money from the CDB grant, then we will go through and look at some of these other projects that are outlined and start prioritizing them. But anyway, there's color coding for each of the schools. So I left on the 2014-15 year, and those are coded in yellow so that you can see the items that we completed for the 14-15 year. For the high school, there are some ovens that we've applied for a grant, and we're hoping to get that. And if we don't, then we'll have to look for some funding in the Ed Fund to replace those. For the junior high, we also have for the 15-16 year, the items in purple, which is some of the sidewalk repairs. We're looking to do those again after we see kind of where we wind up with these projects and get that extra money. In the life safety column where it says could be, those are items that would qualify as life safety projects. However, they are not on our life safety plan that would require an amendment to that. And we're going to be updating our life safety plan in the beginning of 2016. So that's one of the other things that we can decide if we want to add some of those things to it at that particular time. And then for Manning, again, a lot of items were completed in 14-15. The items in pink, at least portions of those are being completed this summer with all the work that's happening there. And then there's an item, some, again, sidewalk repairs if we have some funding. And then one other item at the bottom, replacing the AC in the community room is being done now. And then when we look at Miller, nothing going on there this summer, but projects were completed last year, and then some things slated for the following couple years. And then at South School, again, we completed a couple things last year, nothing going on this year. And we still have, we could still renovate the restrooms down in the preschool area. There is some money left from our bond issue when we did that. And we'll, again, address that as we see how our programs grow there and whether we want to do more extensive renovations or just that.
And you have a footnote here, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but before you leave South School, you do have a footnote about that part of the money for the roof replacement was offset by the
Right.
previous
Well, yeah,
grant
a
fund.
school
So,
maintenance grant that we
great,
applied
perfect.
for and received.
Okay,
So,
perfect,
and
thank
we-
you.
And we try and apply for, anytime those come through, we try and apply for them and
Okay.
hope we are fortunate enough to receive funding.
Okay, great, thank you.
And again, district-wide grounds, again, we did a lot of tree removal. We've had a lot of dead trees on our properties. Nothing slated for this school year at this time, but a couple things with dugouts and things in the following year. And then equipment, there's 2 items that are in purple, a commercial van and a snow blower that, again, if seeing where our funding winds up, those are things that Mike would like to replace. And then the last one is the total dollar amount of all the projects that are out there. So anyway, and again, so there are some of these, if you look at Manning, we'll go back to that. Oh, actually, I don't think it printed out. There's a few of the projects on there that with this next round of funding, like some of the lighting and things like that, or at the high school, where some of that may be covered in some of the projects that we're doing actually at the high school, where it says possible next projects. So it's some of the lighting and some of those things, maybe some of that is incorporated in the projects that we're going to be doing with the next bond issue. So, and I'll have a better idea after we meet with Steve Cashman and we have things finalized exactly how much of that will come out of that bond issue. So, and then the remainder are things that, we may have some room in our O&M fund. But again, we need additional funding to be able to do the majority of these projects.
Kim, I have a couple of basic questions. I know that we're doing a lot of security upgrades this year with door locks and things like that, and we were talking about scanners and things like that, and maybe it's more of a question for Kevin, but so where are we in the process? What can parents expect coming this weekend? I mean,
Sure.
This seems like this would be the time to talk about it, so you could just kind of give us an overview. I'd appreciate it.
And it was actually going to be part of my superintendent's report, but I can address it now. In terms of the lock sets, those will all be replaced for the start of the school year. And if the board remembers, currently the lock sets that we had in our buildings, they would have to be locked with a key from the inside of the door. And if you're in a lockdown situation, again, that's not the quickest way to secure that room. So all the doors now will have lock sets where it's just like a deadbolt. You turn it, and so it's very easy to lock. And so that will all be set with the ability to scan the IDs. That is in process. The estimation is that it'll be up and running by the second week of the school year. And part of it is dependent upon our infrastructure, which we're still working on that upgrade, and so then once that's completed, then they'll start the process. So by the second week of the school year, we'll have that ability to scan visitors' IDs, and then we will, once we get to that point, we will be communicating to our community that when you visit one of our schools, you'll have to have a state ID or a driver's license with you, so that it can be scanned and then compared against a database to make sure that there's no reason why you should not be able to be in our schools.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense not to have it in place on the first day, I guess, because that would be pandemonium. So I just want to make sure that we're on track to get it going and lock down those buildings better.
Right,
Okay.
and we will be using that system then. For any of our parent volunteers, we'll be using that for our parent volunteers, and they will no longer have to go to the regional office for that.
Okay, that's
You
great.
know, good, I'm glad, and Kevin and I had talked about this earlier, and I wanted to, as long as we're talking about it now, because there were, at the registration yesterday, Gary and I both were there. There were some questions about what work has been done and what's coming up. But, and we have talked about this, and it, once they're, or before they're in place, we're going to send out,
Yes.
have all the building principals or somebody send notice to all the families so that people know that they need to bring in
Right,
this
right.
driver's license or state ID, so that they know that that's going to be scanned and all that kind of stuff. So notice will be given to parents.
Yes, yes.
Before that starts.
Yes.
But I think it is a good time to, you know, I mean, obviously, and the next thing is, in the September 8th meeting, Steve Cashman's going to be coming to give us an update of where we are on the big term.
The
you know,
planning for next summer.
the planning for next summer and the summer after.
Right, right.
But that things were done this year, and so, thank you for that. But there were some questions that came up yesterday at registration with some of the parents and stuff. Before we leave that topic, were you done, Gary?
No, go ahead. I may not be done, but go
Okay,
ahead.
before we leave that topic about stuff done over the summer, there was some, unfortunately, an erroneous letter in the newspaper about asbestos going out about over the town. Can you reiterate and clarify for the fact that we are not sending asbestos out into the community, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
There has been a lot of work done
Right,
at
there's
Manning this summer, but
been a lot of work. Some of it
Probably-
was asbestos removal, but the entire site has to be secured.
Contained.
And contained, and then there has to be air quality tests taken on a regular basis. And then once the work is done, then air quality tests need to be done again before you can reopen the building. And all that was completed at the beginning of summer. Much of what probably area homes are seeing is more the dust from the tuck pointing.
Right.
And so it's from grinding the brick, the mortar creates dust, and that's just definitely for the building, it needed that because we do use our, you know, we've used that building for how many years, Kim?
Over
70?
70,
It's-
70?
It's
Wow.
going to be meeting
Yeah.
our needs for the
Since
future as
19
well.
some of it
We don't
since
anticipate not
1920,
using that
so.
facility, and
Right,
so
right.
that's just part of the, you know, maintaining the outside of that building.
And I would just, you know, thank you for that. I would just ask that if anyone does have any specific questions about work that's going on, that maybe they can actually call the district. You know, in the summer, they can't call the building, but they can call the district office if they have questions about that kind of thing, because
And there's
It's-
very stringent rules on asbestos abatement and the protocols for that.
There are laws.
Yes.
There are laws out there that you have to
And-
abide by, even to get rid of it.
Right.
You have to go a specific route, and you have to turn that paperwork in
Right.
Right.
and
to the
we-
government.
Yes,
so.
and for anything that's removed out of there, they have to remove it in a certain manner and dispose of it in a certain way. And we have an abatement consultant that oversees that whole process for us to make sure we're in compliance.
it's just, I just wanted to take this couple minutes to correct that misinformation that's out
Yes.
there. So, anyway, thank you for that. Okay, that was the question I had. Did you have something else?
I guess just a little follow-up, just to really communicate more to the community. So we're going to have these scanners in place in the first week or two, or second week. And if you are a regular volunteer in the building, are you going to have to scan your ID every time you walk in?
No.
Are you going to be given some type of lanyard or ID that allows you into the building? I mean, how are visitors in the building going to be labeled, so to speak, to let them know that they're safe in the building?
Right, the plan is to have lanyards that, you know, we'll be able to create a visitor pass that will be placed on the lanyard. And so for our regular volunteers, we'll provide them with that lanyard, and as long as they have it with them. If they forget it, then we will ask them to scan again, just as a
But they would
precaution.
still need to be buzzed into the building?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Another question that came up yesterday, again, it was a wonderful process yesterday, but there was the one thing that would be good, because I don't think some people know this, that, in the past, and I'm only saying this to reiterate, because we've talked about it before, but before, to get a clearance, you could go to the Westmont Police Department and get that, and now you can't anymore, you have to go to DuPage County. So not only are these scanners going to help with the safety of our building in terms of who's in there, but it also helps our parents that they no longer have to go out to DuPage County to register. So that's an added benefit of this process.
Right.
So I was kind of sharing that with some people that were
Yeah, it will
talking
make it
about
easier to volunteer again, which is
Right,
what we need.
right.
More volunteers.
Right,
Okay.
okay. Okay, any other,
No,
do you have,
I'm
okay.
good.
I had a couple of things. So Kim, and I know you and I had talked about this, so these projects that you have specifically on the high school, so some of these might be able to be done depending upon how the projects all work out. What about the one close to the bottom, enclosed home, ec, and food service classrooms? Those are the ones up at the top, right, at the high school? That's
Right.
why that's got a pretty big
Right.
price tag, okay, okay. And then at the junior high, there are a couple things there, like lights and stuff like that. Would any of those, similar to the
To the high school.
high school?
Yeah, I'm
would-
not sure exactly what's
Okay.
in the scope of that, so
Okay.
I didn't wanna.
Okay, great,
And Steve's been very busy trying to get these projects wrapped up so that the school's open, ready for the start of school, so I didn't wanna spend, his valuable time on
Okay.
this piece right now.
okay. So I particularly appreciate seeing all this, like what has been done. It's really good to see, how much work has been done and what ongoing work. But it's also, do you want to also point out that the last sentence of your memo to us?
Oh, well, and I did discuss it a little bit, that the majority of the projects on the list are not part of the non-referendum bond issue that we will be doing, so we will need to continue to look for other funding sources.
So once we start to have more discussion about capital projects, it's not like there's money just kind of
Right.
sitting in the
Right.
backyard that we could just take off the tree, right? Okay.
Yeah, and somebody did have a question about, life safety, and doesn't the state fund that? No, the state does not fund that. The district still has to come up with the money for life safety projects, so.
And I also recall when we were having some of those meetings before, and we were well-educated by Steve Cashman, that things that you would think fall under life and safety do not fall under life and safety. So there's also strict
Right.
requirements as to what you can even apply for, so. My last question then is, so when do you think we will be talking about this again? This is just.
Probably like late October,
Oh,
early
okay.
November, we'll go back, because we'll have, those projects will be done, Steve will be starting to work on the other pieces, and so we'll kind of coordinate all of that together.
Okay, great. So that's the last question I had. Did anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for this. Very much appreciate that. Okay, next item on the agenda is an action item. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the administrative salaries for the 2015-2016 school year as presented.
So moved?
Second.
And roll call, please.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Bush.
Yes.
Ambrose.
Yes.
Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, including my report, just a reminder for our students, they're not going to be very happy to hear it, but Monday, August 24th is the first day of school for the district. It is a full day of school, and so hopefully our students are excited about the start of the new school year. As I mentioned earlier, the new lock sets are anticipated to be in place for the opening of the school year. And again, that'll, when we have a lockdown situation, it'll be much easier for us to secure our buildings. And then also, we're anticipating by the lobby guard ID scanning devices will be in place for the second week of school. Just a reminder that the board is aware, but just for the community, but we do have several committees that also have community members that are a part of those. And we have a strategic planning committee, a climate committee, facilities committee, and a finance committee. And then periodically, those committees will meet together and update each other on their work for the year. And those dates are included in the board book. The first one being November 3rd, 2015. We always meet at 6:30 p.m. in the high school commons. And then the second one will be January 5th, 2016. And then the final one will be May 3rd, 2016. And as those dates approach, we will remind individuals of those dates. But again, if there's any community members that would like to be a part of any one of those, strategic planning, climate, facilities, or finance, all they need to do is contact my office, and then I will make sure that they receive an invite for those dates. And then summer school, we saw an increase in the number of students participate in summer school this year. Last summer, we had 274 students take advantage of summer learning opportunities, and this year we had 362 students. And you can see the breakdown for all the different offerings. We had offerings for all different age groups, different levels, different ability levels. And so again, very successful program for us. Just to kind of forewarn the community, we may have to tweak it a little bit, anticipating projects this summer, and typically we use the high school to house summer school. So as we get to that February time when we're talking about summer school for 2016, we'll have to take a look at the sites, and we may possibly have to have it at 2 different sites. We'll work through that, but the goal will be to maintain summer learning opportunities as we work through those building improvements.
Are you done with that? I just have to.
Oh, sure.
About
Sure,
that.
and
I
I've
just
got one
have
more
to
thing.
say, I think that's fantastic, since we've been offering more summer programs, that X number more students are participating, and that there's so many offerings. So it's fantastic. I'm very happy to see that this many people are taking advantage of it, and so wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
And then also, just surprise the board of some activities for staff coming up. Next Monday, the 17th, we'll welcome our new staff. They'll start their orientation process. We have 2 days at the beginning of the year, August 17th and August 19th, in which the staff become acclimated with the district and some of the procedures that they need to be aware of, and hopefully make their transition very smooth to our district. And then all of our staff will report on Thursday, August 20th, for 2 days, the 20th and 21st, for institute activities. A lot of different sessions will be offered to our staff, but the focus will be as part of the para legislation and the new administrative tool. Right now, we use the Danielson model. Next year, teachers will also have student learning objectives. They have to be able to demonstrate student growth as part of the evaluation process, and that will go into their rating. And so in prepping for that, this year we're doing a district-wide pilot. So we are working with our staff on this student learning objective process, how to develop those learning objectives, how to develop the assessments, and then we will go through that process of assuring that our teachers are having that student growth, so that when we have to do it as required by law in 2016, our staff will be well-versed in that process. And then one last little bit of good news that Marie had asked me to share, and once we get the official information, we'll definitely invite Mr. Baldwin to a board meeting to share all the details. But we were notified by Newsweek magazine that the high school is going to be included in the ranking of America's best high schools. The rankings won't come out until later in the fall. But the fact that we've been notified indicates that we'll be in the top 10% of high schools. And so we're very excited about that. That's on the heels of the Washington Post ratings that came out last spring. And so definitely we'll be thinking of creative ways to communicate that to our community about the successes we're seeing within our district. And again, we'll have a presentation here at the board once those rankings do come out.
So you
Okay,
said
first of
top
all,
10%?
Thank you.
There was, so thank you for mentioning that. It was in the Westmont magazine, so that's, and I know that you
Right.
are the one who does
Provides
this,
the information.
provides the information. But it's just wonderful to, and again, I could talk about this every day, but the progress that our students
Stunning.
are making is fantastic, and the, yesterday, to hear a lot of the parents talk about, these kids are excited to come to the high school, and the chatter is phenomenal out there. We have, it's a great place to be. So, and we had talked about, yes, we need to really talk about some creative ways to let
Get that
everybody
word
know,
out.
banners or signs or whatever we can do, just to share that information. A lot of work went into this, and
Definitely.
so it's nice to know. So, and yeah, so when we get that information, we'll invite Jack to come, and
Yep.
sure he can find a couple minutes to come
I'm sure.
and share that with us, so. Okay, that's great, thank you. I appreciate that. I have two other questions. There was some question about PLC dates. Can we check the school calendars?
Sure.
Because I know everyone's starting to kind of look at this, to add PLC dates on
Sure.
there and stuff like that. There are some of the SIP days on there, but if we can add the PLC dates.
Sure.
And I promised John Jonak last night that I would mention this. One other thing is this year, our junior high students are going to be all with new Chromebooks, so that's very exciting. And so he is hosting a parent technology night on August 18th in the Westmont Commons from 7 to 8 o'clock. And he had said that he will be talking about the Chrome books and all of that, as well as safety features for technology to the parents. So I wanted to mention that, so. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Registration went very well yesterday.
Good.
It was wonderful. So, okay, are there any board reports then to?
I guess I'll just take a moment and ask the community, we've made a lot of improvements in the school district over the last several years, and this national ranking is a huge indicator that it's working. But it only works because dedicated professionals and parents and students and volunteers got involved to make it happen. So when we have things like these joint committees where you can become a part of it on the strategic planning, the climate, facility, and finance, it's important that you do it. Whether that you're paying it forward, paying it back, or paying it now because you've had a student, somewhere in the district or never in the district. It's important to get out and help, because it's only through all the efforts of everybody that things actually get accomplished. It doesn't just happen. It happens because people get involved and people want to make a difference. So please, I ask you, it's 3 nights, over the course of a year. Please get, involved with your school district. It will help. It will make a difference. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Good point, thanks, Gary. And a lot of things come out of those meetings.
Yes,
So-
a lot of change
A lot of
for the
change,
better
yeah.
happens out of those
Absolutely.
meetings. So-
Absolutely. Okay, any other board reports?
Thanks.
I wanted to share, I saw on the news today, like, we're talking about school starting, I think it's Morton High School started today.
Yeah, some schools
So,
started.
at least we don't start till August.
It's my late.
We can't move that up.
Okay, and we're gonna, was there something else? No. Okay, are there any public comments? Yes. Oh,
Come on up here, sir,
come on up to the podium, please.
and please state your name so we know who you are.
Yes.
My name is Ed Casimir. I've lived in Westmont for 41 years in the Oakwood subdivision. Matt is one of our representatives, doing a very fine job, very efficient, might add.
Thank you.
I was wondering about the non-referendum bond issue. And when is that going to be announced, and what is that going to cover, and some of the specifics about that, if you could elaborate?
Well, normally we don't have answer on public comment, but I think we will say that we voted on that a couple months ago. The board voted on that, we discussed it, and then our architect, Steve Cashman, will be coming to a future board meeting to explain to the community and everybody where we are on those projects. So those are some of the things that we just talked about tonight and we voted on in the past.
The process on that, when you say it's a non-referendum bond issue, so it doesn't go up for vote, what is how do you present that then? And how is that approved?
Well, the process actually started earlier, in which the board had to pass a resolution, and then they had to publish it, and then there was a 30-day period that the board had to wait, and then they had to have a public hearing. And the board has completed all those steps, and so the last step is just the actual issuance, which, again, we've had to obviously downsize what the intent was for the schools. And so right now, Steve Cashman is helping us try to, again, meet as many of the objectives as we had in terms of making our buildings safer and more secure. And then on September 8th, he's going to update the board on where he is at in that process.
And what is the amount of the bond issue? Do you have a,
Yeah, it'll be $12 million, and part of that's refunding, so $9 million for projects, and the other is refunding existing bonds.
and those are the projects that you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay. So there'll be, in a future meeting, there'll be an open forum, basically, to cover those?
Well, you can just, and this is probably a good point to bring up to everybody else, all our meetings are televised, and so anybody can watch the meetings, or you can look at those on the district website, so you can always see what we have discussed, all the discussions that have happened, so there, all of that was happening, that has already happened. And then we'll be certainly updating the community on the status of the projects.
Okay. I noticed that there was a scanner that's being installed, and is that in all the schools or just the?
It'll be at, yes, at all the schools.
Okay, I think it's a great idea to do that. It's it takes away some of the concerns from the
Right.
prior referendum that people were, which was, I think, twice the money, roughly, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the tax rates, what is the process that the, not only yourself, but most of the taxing bodies in the city, in the village, how do you come to those rates? I mean, do you have an expenditure debate or something, and then you come up with a tax rate to cover that?
I'm going to actually interrupt you. This, I think now we're going into the point where this goes beyond what a public comment is.
okay. All
So
right.
if you maybe want to contact the district office, and then you can get some specific questions answered. Generally, public comments are, somebody comes and makes, and then because we're.
Change to what we talked about tonight.
Right, because, the thing is, nobody has everything right in front of us, so
Well, I
it doesn't,
understand.
so.
Neither do I. I have
Yes,
somebody
yes.
that-
So
but-
if you'd like to contact the district office, and then perhaps they can
Okay.
answer.
You can either email Kim Anderson or myself
Yeah.
with your questions, and we'll be happy to
answer
respond.
those.
Cards or something I can,
The email.
that's on it's on the website.
It's on the website.
Okay, we
Yes.
can do that. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Here's Mr. Carey's.
There you go, sir.
Good, thank you. Good, and I think it's, the Achievement Award is great for the high school. My kids went K through 12 and went on from there and are very successful today, both of them. My wife was a registrar for the high school for many years, so we're glad to see that become, knowledge to throughout the country, so. As you said earlier, that Gary, it's part of not only the school board, but the parents and the whole community that works toward that, so That's a nice accomplishment.
Sure.
Good. All right, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Okay, no other public comments, then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, and probable litigation.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Johnson,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes?
Charlton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and I did one thing out of order, so I have to, future meetings and events. Number one is the junior high ice cream social for incoming sixth graders is August 17th at 6 o'clock at the Westmont Junior High Commons. And then again, on August 18th at 7 o'clock is the technology meeting. First day of school attendance for the students, August 24th, and the next board meeting is August 25th here at the Village Hall. And that meeting there will be a 6:30 meet and greet with our new administrators, and then we will, during the meeting that will start at 7, we will introduce those people, folks as well. So now we can go into closed. And there's no vote after this. Thank you.